feeling that this is gonna be my day. Let's go to the brave space.
Welcome back to a new episode of The Brave Space. I am your host, Laila Monterey, and today I am so excited about our guest speaker, Charmaine Heard. She is a relationship coach, and not only a relationship coach, but a relationship intelligence coach. I want to directly follow up on the last two episodes that we released. It was about trauma bonding and how childhood trauma can lead to later on unhealthy relationships. And today we pick up the topic of how to create healthy relationships. So welcome, Charmaine.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here to have this conversation with you. It has been a pleasure to meet you ahead of time. So thank you.
Healthy relationships, shouldn't it be normal to us?
We would think so. We would think that healthy relationships is something that we innately just know how to do, yet we struggle with it so much.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with the conditioning, right? Like no one's teaching us this in school, right? No one's teaching us how to really sit with our soft skills, sit with our emotions. It's not taught in elementary school. It's not taught in middle school or high school. It's taught in college if you're going into that type of field, right? Any medical health field, but it's not something that's openly discussed. And it's definitely not something that's taught to us.
Okay. So why don't we get it passed down from our parents? Shouldn't they know how to create healthy relationships? Why is it not something we should feel with our guts?
Yeah, well, I think it is something that we can feel when we're in tune with ourselves. But there's something there that, the conditioning that I talked about when we're younger, we're starting to be conditioned on how we should feel, what we shouldn't feel, what we should do, what we should not do, which was also passed down to our parents, right? Our parents got taught what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and their parents taught them. And depending on the era in which our parents grew up and their parents, we were taught, especially women and those of color, we don't have an opportunity to actually sit with ourselves. Right. And so we've learned not to sit with ourselves. I think little kids know how to do it very well. You have a beautiful little girl, and I know she knows how to do it very well right now. Right. The conditioning hasn't quite set in yet for her. And so I think we've gotten away from being able to be in touch with ourselves from a deeper place. And I think that's where the breakdown in healthy relationships or the challenges that we have in being healthy with ourselves and others comes.
Having a healthy relationship with ourselves, I think it's the first thing what we have to do in order to be able to create and access a healthy relationship with someone else.
I
Would
agree.
you agree with that? Yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. On my exploration to this idea of healthy relationships, it all boils down to how healthy we are with ourselves first and foremost, and how do we relate to ourselves, love ourselves, treat ourselves. And that being able to do that well, we're able to be with others in a much healthier place. So we are home base for healthy relationships.
So how do we do this?
Yeah.
How do we have a healthy and loving relationship with
Yeah.
ourselves if we haven't learned it from our parents?
Great question. And so this was a whole exploration for me around this. I have to tell you that it's been like something I've wondered about my whole life, like being an 11-year-old kid with the world on my shoulders, thinking, how can I be healthy with people, right? Not really knowing that I would land here as an adult, as this being the work that I do in the world. So as I think about how do we do this? How do we learn that? First, we have to admit, like, I may not be at my healthiest place, right? It's the willingness. Am I willing to dive in and be healthy? Do I care enough? Am I capable of doing it? And then it comes down to self-awareness, like learning how to be aware of yourself, watching yourself, paying attention to the ways in which you relate to other people, how you talk to yourself and about yourself. Right. So it's starting to first just focus in on paying more attention. I need to be aware of myself. I need to be aware of how I relate to others. And from there, we start to really dive a bit deeper into, oh, now I see how I'm showing up for myself or how I'm showing up with others. So that's where I have started. I didn't start there before though. I was other focused, right? Everything kept leading me back to Charmaine. The health of any relationship depends on how healthy you are as well, right? It's threefold. And I believe I learned that from Esther Perel, where she says the health of a relationship is the individuals and then the relationship. I believe that was her. Whoever it was, it stuck with me. And so it's being willing to be aware and then I'm going to stand in building a healthy relationship with myself. And the way that I did it was I decided to be my greatest lover and my greatest friend. How would my great love treat me? How would my greatest friend treat me? And I'm going to turn that on myself first. And then I can do that with others.
Wow. Wonderful. I'm still working on that a little bit.
It's a work in progress, right? I've been doing it for so long. And there are moments where I'm like, oh, you're not being your greatest friend. Wait a minute. Your great friend wouldn't want that for you. Yeah.
So going back to what you said, my focus was not myself. My focus was somewhere else. Where was your focus, or where can the focus be instead of ourselves? And how did we learn that?
Yes. I think we were taught to focus on others always, right? We're selfish if you focus on yourself. You know, when we think about relationships as an adult, most of the time we go to others, right? Or romantic relationships, right? When we talk about it, we never really talk about it from a standpoint of who you are in the relationship first, right? So a good way to explain that, you know, when people are dating or wanting to be in a relationship, they talk about what they want from the other person. But I think when we focus on who we want to be in the relationship and how we want to show up in the relationship, it actually opens us up into learning how to relate to ourselves and others well. But we always go outside. This is what I want, or this is what these people did, or this is what, like, it's always outside, right? And it plays a part, but that's not home base first. We are home base. We start here.
To me, it seems a little bit that the thought of what we want it comes from a place of lack. I am missing something and I need someone else to give it to me, to complete me. So I'm like you, like highly critical. What do I want in the other person? When, just to share a little bit my approach that I did with my coach, you know her. It was, how do I want to feel in the relationship? My first two, how to say, big points, non-negotiables are: I want to be myself in the relationship. I want to be fully accepted, and I want to feel safe. That are my two top ones. And thinking about that, it comes back to me. Do I accept myself? Are there parts of me that I deny or do not accept? Coming to the second one, I want to feel safe. Why do I feel unsafe, and where does this come from? And I think you, like this, making your list of how you want to feel when you spend time with him, and thinking about, do I feel this? Can I do this for myself? Can I provide safety for myself? Can I accept myself?
You're making my heart sing, Lila. Like, I'm like, yes. Yeah, it's when we realize, like, okay, so we really do want, the non-negotiables are, I want to feel safe. How do I start with being safe with myself? How do I live with myself being safe, right? So I know what it feels like to be safe with another, right? I want to be fully accepted. What parts of me am I still working on accepting, and how can I be with that? So I'm not relying on someone else to give me something I can't even give myself, right? So this is so beautiful. I love that you just said that, right? The willingness to sit in self-acceptance and what that really looks like, to fully see yourself as beautiful and as brilliant as you are. So I fully accept all of me, even the parts of me that I'm still working on. And I give love to that part. But that way, when your partner comes, you already feel like that place of acceptance, right? There's a sweet space for that, right? It's just so sweet when we can get there. And it's not that we do it perfectly, right? There are moments when we wake up and we just don't have it in us, right? We start picking on ourselves, right? But it's getting back to that place of, wait, my greatest lover, my greatest friend fully accepts me and actually delights in me and wants to keep me safe. These are my non-negotiables. I'm not going to negotiate it with how I even sit with myself in this.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm just directly asking you everything that comes to my mind. Is there kind of a blueprint how a healthy relationship should look like?
Yeah. So I try to stay away from blueprints, right? I think there are tools because we all are wired differently. We grew up differently. We're all humans, right? We all have feelings. I think our feelings and emotions are intel. It's part of our superpower. I do think there are some tools, right? So if you're asking about how do we get to healthy relationships, what I did or the journey to what I did was first explore. So there are a few people, Rumi being one, a poet that I really like, the poet Rumi. He's a Sufi poet. And he said, we don't look for love, we look for all of the barriers in which we hold love back. And I put love and healthy relationships in the same basket, right? So I decided, okay, if there are barriers, if love is just here, or healthy relationships is just something we know how to do, then obviously I've put up some barriers here on stopping it from freely flowing. What could those barriers be? And so I started with, let me identify what ways of relating. Okay, so one of them was approval, needing approval, right? That was a barrier for me. I was stepping into wanting other people to approve and accept me that I didn't even approve and accept myself. So I went through and just made a list of like, what are the things that could be holding me back? Where did it come from? Like, why is holding on to the past a barrier for me? Where did it come from? Like, where do I think it originated? What are the patterns that I've formed because of this? And now what are my new practices? Right. So I'll use another one, forgiveness, for instance. That's a really big one. And there were moments where I thought I would forgiven people and I didn't. I'm like, hold on. So this is holding me back from being in healthy relationships with other people, not just that one person, but because that happened to me in the past, I'm showing up as if it could happen again. And I am relating to others in this unhealthy pattern in order to keep myself safe or whatever the reasons were, right? So it's really, that's why I talk about self-awareness. It's really trying to understand where this is coming from. What is the barrier here? How can I work with it gently, right? We don't want to rip it off. This is a barrier, but like, how can I really sit with forgiveness, give myself a chance to actually learn how to do this well and practice. Once I know the unhealthy ways, let me practice the healthier ways of relating to this. So that's a tool that I used as I started to really walk through my journey of how to be with others the way that I've always wanted. It's been like, I feel like, there are big dreams that we have to have this like wonderful life. But really at the end of the day, we're just asking to have beautiful relationships with people. But we want to feel like we're safe enough to do that in this world. And the world hasn't always made us feel safe enough to do it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I totally get you that you don't want it to write it down in black and white. But for me, as I felt like after having experienced at the end of my 20s, a really severely violent and abusive relationship with a narcissist, I found myself like I had no trust in anything. And I found myself in starting from point zero, and I needed for me and for my brain, for my intellect, I needed something in black and white. And I don't remember the name of the coach, but she said, okay, the first thing what you have to watch out in the other person is he financially independent, financial and emotional independence from anybody, from his family, from his mother, from the father, whoever. He must be financially and also emotionally independent. And second, how does he make you feel? Does he make you feel safe? Does he make you physically and emotionally safe? And this, as simple as it might seem or might sound, it was not as simple as for me in practice, because I could at this point, like 80% of my past relationships, I could like cross out. Was not emotionally independent, was not financially independent, whatever. So that really gave me something to hold on. And something else what I did, and I did it with, I'm sure you know, I think you studied with her, with Catherine Woodward
I
Thomas,
did. Yeah.
how to grow out your patterns. You make a list of the things you felt were not working in the last relationships. And for me, it was things like my boundaries were not accepted. I was not a priority. He didn't show up for me. And then you reflect on, okay, how could I let this happen? Okay, I did not put clear boundaries. I did not prioritize myself. So of course, you teach the other person how to treat you,
Mhm.
and so on. And that were really great tools for me to grow and to watch out and see how a healthy relationship should look like.
Yeah. And you've done some really beautiful work, I can tell, just from talking to you prior to this and now. And I did study under Catherine Woodward Thomas. I have a few certifications under her, and her work is really brilliant. And it still continues to bring me back home to self. So if I were to talk to that young person, that young Layla, I would first remind her of how absolutely wonderful she already is, right? Because I think once we speak love, like you're your greatest gift, you are your greatest gift. And from there, you're a gift to others. And that gift must be held with precious hands, right? Your hands first. And before we look at another, we say, how do I come back to myself where I can learn to trust me, right? I can learn to sit with when I'm with people, what is my nervous system saying to me? Am I okay? Right? I've learned to talk to myself a lot now because I am trying to
Great.
be my best buddy. So when I'm in a situation, I will ask, are you okay, Charmaine? Right? Other people may not know that, but I'm checking in with me. Are you feeling safe? Are you comfortable? Because that's what we would want someone to do for us. Right. And so it's almost a reminder of who we are, right? When we can see ourselves, we can see another in that way. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that I'm able to hold on to now is because I can see me, I can see you a bit more clearly. I can see, of course, you didn't deserve that, and you know that now. But as we walk through, how do I take what I learned in the past and bring it forward? It's I need to learn how to trust here. Whether he has good finances or not, how does he make me feel? Do I feel well taken care of? Do I feel comfortable enough to say no or that I don't like that and feel like that person will accept it and say, okay, that's fine? Or when we get into conflict, how does that person deal with me? How would I deal with me when I'm in conflict with myself? Right? Am I able? Because here's the thing. I think we all are wired for love. It's the one thing I think we all so deeply desire, yet we're afraid of it at the same time. I was afraid of it at the same time because before I gave serious consideration to what love is, it felt like love was just so painful, right? But love and pain, I don't think belong in the same sentence at all. And I learned that from the author Bell Hooks, and she wrote this book called All About Love. And that's actually where I got my and marching orders for understanding love. I used to have the book readily available, like I could just grab it. But I don't think that we seriously consider that love does not include pain in the way that we think it does. It just doesn't. That's not love. That's something different.
Can you give us, because I think it's so important, can you give us an example?
Yes. So love and abuse. One of the things, it's a hard word, and I wish I literally just had the book in my hand 2 days ago. It's a very well loved, it's well worn book all about love, but she uses this word that I believe she got from another author. Um, the word cathect or cathecting, and that
Mhm.
means to deeply care for someone. So for example, if you are meeting someone for the first time and you guys have, all this chemistry and 2 weeks in you're like, I think I'm falling in love with them. I think I'm loving them. It's really you're cathecting them. It's not a sexy word, but it's you're falling into deep care. That person is starting to feel more important to you in your life, right? So that's when we're connecting with someone. The cathexis is happening, right? But we are just deeply learning how to care for them. They've become important. But to know love and to really sit in love with someone takes time. It takes attention, right? It takes communication, all of those things, right? So we can deeply care for someone, really deeply care for them and not still love them, especially when abuse is there, right? We can't say I love you and then sock them, hit someone. It's not the same to me. And I'm willing to like hang my hat on that. Some people are like, no, it's because I love them that I do that. And it's like, no, because love doesn't hurt in that way. And until we can understand that and seriously sit with it, Love does not punish in those ways, and not just physically, but emotionally as well, right? We don't give our love and then take it back when the person isn't behaving the way we want them to. So that's what I mean by pain and abuse does not go in the same sentence as love.
Wow, I mean, I know you have been working in this field for 16 years. Did you have clients who said he is just ugly with me because he wants my best or he loves
Not
me?
necessarily clients, but I've heard people say that, "He loves me, that's why he does it," right? So then it's sitting with love. Let's think about this idea of love. Love does not abuse in that kind of way. Why would we want that? Why would we ever want that, right? So they feel like it's love, but it's really not. When we wanna keep people safe, and if we one of the things I did when I was a novice at this, there were Bell Hooks gives a definition of love. So I'm giving a lot of homage to her right now. But she says love is respect and communication and safety. And maybe she said boundaries. I can't remember. And I used to take that list almost like I should have tattooed it on my arm and say, okay, so am I respecting myself and others? Am I like that's first how I started to get it down in my body. It started to make sense to me to do it that way. So when you respect another, do you put your hands on them or do you play with their minds, like emotionally abuse them? No, right? When we respect people, we don't do that, right? So that's not love, right? And like I said, you could deeply care for people and not love them or know how to love them well. And that's where the rubber meets the road, as we say. Like, that's where we really have to consider love seriously at that point.
I mean, what do I want to say? I had in all my love relationships, I think I had some toxic dynamics, except one. I was dating someone many years ago, and there was never anything toxic, even though the relationship didn't last for other reasons, for life circumstances. He lives across the ocean. So, but there was never any blaming or any shaming or anything toxic. So this is how I found out. Okay, this is how it should feel, and I'm capable. And because I was always doubting myself, but actually, I don't have to doubt myself. I have to be a little bit more aware on who I trust and who I choose. So yeah, but as you say, should be no pain in the relationship. And I mean, like, missing someone or some pain like that is okay.
Yes.
Or a pain like if you have a disagreement and you have a fight, but not the one were referring to. Abuse, like someone constantly blames you, someone is very jealous, someone doesn't respect your boundaries, is very possessive with you, and you call it love. It's not love.
It's not love. It's not love. Yeah. Listen, conflict will happen in relationships, not just romantic, but all relationships. We're not going to always agree. However, we can sit in a place of learning how to be with each other in that way as well, right? Respecting each other enough to not have to, throw out name calling or any of those things and hurting each other, right? And if we do, some people, we don't always get it right. We can then turn around and we can ask for forgiveness and we can, get back to a good place in the relationship. But the constant, like you said, being possessive or any of those things that don't make you feel good, that disrupts your nervous system, we have to check on that. And the person that you didn't end up with, it's just evidence that you can be with someone in a really sweet way. And it doesn't have to last forever, but that you're worthy of that sweet love. And that if it ends well, and that's okay. And I think we can be a bit, for lack of a better term, immature when relationships break up and we think, oh, because something had to be wrong. Sometimes life changes and circumstances changes. We have to negotiate, is this good for us to stay in this type of relationship or do we move it to a more friendly place, right? I don't know, but it's all in sitting with ourselves and understanding your worthiness. Like I am worth sweet love. Like I deserve it. And I'm capable of getting it, right? I think that's what we're afraid of. Like no one's out there that's going to love me this way. But there are plenty of people who can't wait to love you that way, including a romantic partner, but your friends and family as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, the one with the nervous system, alert nervous system is, for me, it's not an easy one because I'm working on it, and it's so much better like it used to be. So I had a post-traumatic stress syndrome complex, and I was always hyper vigilant, always high alert, and my thoughts all over the place. Yeah, with meditation and self-awareness and consciousness tools, I'm making great progress. And still, when I was in situation with people and I tried to tune in, how do I feel? And my mind was kind of all over the place. I felt like, I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel. Like, does this person make me feel safe or not? And I don't know. It was not, I didn't get this feeling this person made me feel unsafe, but my thoughts were like on the opposite. When there was someone who made me feel safe, I immediately had this, I feel safe, I feel so. But it took me really some time to figure out that the opposite of feeling safe does not necessarily mean you feel totally unsafe and stand up and run. This confusion, like, I don't know how I should feel. This was the alert. This was my high alert nervous system saying, this is not the right person for you. This person makes you somehow confused. You don't know how you should feel. You don't know and it's very subtle. It doesn't have to be in the words. It's some vibration or whatever, something very subconscious. But if you don't know how to feel around a person, that could be really the sign not for you. Do you agree with me?
I agree with you. And I think it takes practice. Again, I don't think any of us knew how to do this before, right? And like I've had trauma and all of these things, and I didn't know how to even emote. Like, I wasn't well at showing my emotions. I had one friend that said, "You never cry." And I didn't. I didn't cry. I was afraid of it. I thought if I started crying, I'd never stop crying, right? So there was a lot that I needed to practice. And I say this because I feel like practice is such a gentle word. And my clients hear me say all the time, go gently into this work. You're practicing how to connect with yourself. Right. So when we are all up in our heads and we're trying to figure out how we should feel, it's just taking that moment. Like you said, you have some tools now, a meditation and all of these other things. And I had to do the same thing. I wish I could tell you that when I started, it was like beautiful and perfect. It was quite an ugly mess, but it's a beautiful story as well. But I didn't know how to do this. And so um, through a lot of pain, through a lot of life lessons, especially when I was like, I'm going to stand up to trying to learn love and healthy relationships. I was like, ooh, remember what you ask for. You get what you ask for. And Charmaine, you did ask for this. You did ask to get a greater understanding, and now you have to see it. So I was willing to stand up to it. And there were moments where I was like, I'm done. I'm ready to throw in the towel because I don't know that I can do this. I don't know if I can. It takes a lot to stay with yourself when the world wants to pull you in so many different directions, right? How do I stay here? How do I know that I'm safe? But it takes gentle practice. I'm going to keep being with myself. Oftentimes, I'll find myself with my hand on my heart, checking
Yeah.
in, right? And also like a place of like, hold on, just hold still for a minute, right? You're kind of going against the grain a little bit as well, because we aren't used to doing this. Actually, I think that's what children know how to do it well. If you watch babies and toddlers and all of that, when they're upset, they show you they're upset. They're not judging themselves. They're living in their bodies, right? They're emoting the way that they feel. And then we start to say, don't do that. Don't act like that, whatever. And then you learn how to, depending on who your parents are, how to move around so that you feel safe, because that parent might have a hot temper or whatever. Then we start to adjust to other people, and we live our lives, if we're not careful, adjusting to life that way, to others and life in that way. But I feel like if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I came from, of course, just like others, broken in many ways. And I feel like my nervous system was always just high. Like, I just was always on fight, flight, or fawn for whatever reason.
Wow.
Right. But I knew that this was not the way of life. This was not my story. Couldn't be my happily ever after. It just couldn't be. From childhood on, to be not in healthy relationships with people, I didn't want that to be it. Right. So it was standing up to it and taking my time. Like I said, being really gentle with yourself, going slowly, being patient, knowing that you're worthy, like you're worth it. You're absolutely worth it. Like I'm worth having this sweet relationship with myself because it actually helps me have sweet relationships with the people in my life. I wish I could put it into words how this feels. Maya Angelou says, you don't remember what people say, but you do remember how I'm paraphrasing, but you will remember how they made you feel, right? And so that we are feeling people too. It's not just words, but we feel through life. And you walk into a room and you feel something off, be with that. Or you walk into the room and it feels really good, be with that, right? But we're feeling people too, and we need to get back to that.
Wow, wonderful. I so love when you say putting your hand on your heart, because one
Mhm.
of my practice, it's in my last episode, I put one hand here and one on the belly.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm just like touching myself. Yeah, feeling my body. It gives me a feeling of holding myself. And
Yes.
and I also like, in the upcoming episode, I'm going to talk to Dr. Gabor Mate, and we just recorded it. And I asked him also, how do we know what we should know if our brain, our nervous system is not programmed the right way? And he says, you have a heart and you have your guts, and they are always right. And so if you see a child crying, and you feel into your heart, it makes you break your heart. This is where the truth is. So your heart and your guts, they know the truth. Don't always trust your brain or your intellect, because you might have been wired for something else that is not healthy from your parents. Told you should suppress this, you should do that. But you're always the truth.
Always, always. I am not nearly as brilliant as Gabor Mate, who I have learned so much from. Brilliant. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that episode. I'll probably watch it many times over. But the other thing that you said that was really great, holding our hearts and our bellies. Like I always think, Charmaine, how do you connect your head from your brain to your heart to your belly, right? Because our hearts also, and I'm not that sciencey, I just try to nerd out on everything I can about relationships and how it works from a science and spiritual perspective as well. But they have their own brain system here, like
Yes,
their own wisdom that we
yes,
tap
they have.
into, right? Which is why I think we're feeling humans, right? We feel through it. Like our hearts tell us, our stomachs tell us it's not just up here. It's through us. So that's why like if there's a reminder there, like you have great wisdom right here in your heart
Yeah.
and in your stomach.
Spoil a little bit.
Okay.
So he said also the brain, the guts, and the heart, they send way more signals to your brain than the brain backwards. So
Yes.
yeah, so they have their own, yeah, they're completely independent systems, and you can totally trust them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to holding yourself and calming your nervous system, I see a lot of exercises on social media, like really fancy ones, and I'm like, wow, how am I gonna do this when I'm really like on high alert? I'm like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I really like it's. I try to keep it simple, like holding myself. Even also, you can really just do this, or just breathing, just keeping it simple. Because when my brain is in high alert, I'm not thinking, oh, what should I do?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. I'm no expert in it, but breathing always helps me. Let me calm down by breathing, right? Let me just be with my breath. Let me come back here. A lot of times when we're all up here, it's the younger part of us that's trying to like get it together, right?
hmm,
And so being gentle around that, what part of me feels like unsafe or knocked off my balance or whatever, because I do think or believe that at this age right now, I'm at the wisest part of me, right? So that this part of me can hold the parts of me that are dysregulated right now. So if I consider my wise self and look back at young Charmaine and go, what's happening here? She remembers something that happened in the past or whatever to kind of dysregulate her? How do I, having my younger self trust me? And I know you know this because you're working with your coach and there's, a little bit of relating to the younger self. But when I wrote my book, I wrote it to my younger self. And I said, you know, you are my greatest. I love you. And I will learn to love you well because it's almost like a redemption story for her, for all of the times where she didn't feel loved. I'm going to do this for you and for us, right? How do I regulate myself? How do I take care of you first when you're feeling not safe? I got you. You're safe with me first. I didn't make the right choice. Let me come back. How do I soothe myself? What are the self-soothing practices? Breathe. Like I said, I talk to myself a lot. I check in. I didn't before. I think we're just walking around bumping up on each other and not really aware of what we're doing or who we're doing things to, especially to ourselves, right? I did not realize how much my inner critic was talking so negatively to me, right? This is too big. This is not good enough. And I'm like, whoa, right? My greatest friend would never speak to me in that way. I have to stop looking at myself from that lens because I was also being critical to others. That's how it works, right? Now it doesn't even dawn on me to be critical to myself or other people. When
Wonderful.
if I find myself there, I need to check in. What's happening here?
Yeah. This weekend I'm going to have a seminar or like a workshop with an Austrian psychotherapist. His name is Martin Gardner, and it's a workshop about reconnecting with your inner child. I've done it many, many times, but I don't know, somehow I feel like I really want to do it again. And he's also an expert on breath. And you always calm your system through your body. Not the brain comes first, but the body comes first. And he said there is something called um, breathing coherence. So he says you breathe in and you breathe out the same length. And he said something like 4.5 seconds. Was a lot of research on that. And he said you breathe in for 4.5 seconds, you breathe out. And you do that for a while. And this calms your vagus nerve. And then you really start to calm your whole nervous system. So yeah,
I
I'm
think it's
very
so
excited.
cool. Yeah, I'm excited for you. I can't wait. Can you tell me about it? I can't
Yes,
wait for you to have that experience. And, you know, I forget to breathe sometimes. I think for a lot of my
yes,
life, I was, you know, we breathe, right? Of course, we're breathing, we're alive. But I was forgetting a lot to just breathe intentionally,
yes,
right? For some clearing. I was always like, and I didn't know. Yeah. So this is going to be really great. I'm excited for you and this
yes.
experience.
I want to ask him. He's in Austria. I don't know if he speaks English, but I would love him to come on the show and talk about breathe, the
Yeah.
importance of it, and how freeing it can be to breathe out all your negative past, past life, early life. I wanted to not forget. I have one of my first points, but we didn't talk about it just a little bit. You wrote a book.
I
You're
did.
an author also, and the name is?
The courage to rise.
Mm.
Yeah. I did not think I was gonna write a book. And several people were like, "You should write a book." And I'm like, "I don't have anything to say," right? I nerd out on relationships. I'm a coach on purpose, right? Like I specifically went this route for many different reasons. My personality speaks more of a coach than anything. But when I set out to write this book, like I said, I wrote it for my younger self. And I'm like, who would you write this book for? And then a few of my clients were like, you should write this stuff down. This is really good. But I wanted to write from a lens of not the expert, but from someone who can walk you through what I did. So it's quite vulnerable for me to share the way that I shared in this book about my life because I like being really private, right? But being private and not sharing this experience and helping others, I felt like was not the right thing to do. But the book is really written from a place of deep love. I feel like I understand love and healthy relationships today more than I thought I understood it 16 years ago. I thought I knew where this path was going to take me. I was so wrong. It took me down, you know, it took me down some really hard places, but I wrote this book because I also needed to continue to teach myself the things that I learned from others, right? Like Gabor Mate, like Catherine Woodward Thomas, like Esther Perel, Bell Hooks, all of these people, they were teaching me. And
Yes.
I'm really intentional about this work and have been. I spend at least, if I don't have enough time in the day, at least 15 minutes learning from somebody in this field a day, right? Just to let it continue to sit in my body. But I also have my lived experience. And that's what the book is about.
Mm.
I quote at the very end this beautiful quote about don't think that I ever fell for you, but I rose in love to you, basically. And it's the idea of I am rising in love. I'm not falling in it. I think when people say, what does the world need? And I'm like, oh, sounds so kitschy, but love. But how do we do it? Right. And I want to just talk a little bit about, if it's okay, the idea of courage. Right. It
Mm.
does take courage for you to start this podcast and to do what you've done so brilliantly well with what I've seen so far. Right. It takes courage to stand into a place where other people aren't as courageous enough to do it and to stay there, right? Because the world is not always as pleasant as we'd like it to be, right? So when we courageously say, I'm going to live this life, I'm going to say no, I'm going to have boundaries, I'm going to, whatever that thing is, to step into it is a courageous thing to do. And so the idea of courage, it's not just a flat word, it is a big, robust word to sit with and say, do I have the courage enough to even love again after I've been hurt so many times? Can I do it again? That takes courage. Can I open up my heart enough to love another person, right? It takes courage to say, can I breathe? Am I courageous enough to breathe in this moment when it hurts so bad?
For me, it's not only do I have the courage to love again. For me, is I really have moments, regular moments, where I really have to take myself and um like clear my judgment towards humanity.
Mm, yes.
Yeah, spoilering again about what I also talked with Gabor, that he said we were talking about. He said, I don't want to say it wrong, that we consider being selfish as normal. That's like people say, oh, that's just, it's human nature. But he says it's totally wrong. There have been times where we needed each other and we would not survive without each other,
Hmm.
and we were taking care of each other. So it's total bullshit that we keep telling ourselves it is normal to be selfish and always put yourself first. I don't mean that you should neglect yourself, but I am like you, the world needs some more love. Or if love is too much for you, just kindness, just being kind and seeing the whole picture. And
Absolutely.
as we are talking about, yeah, how to create healthy relationships, if you really take this as the starting point to encounter people just with kindness, I think there's so much shift. There would be so much shift. Yeah, I,
Mm.
that's something I would really wish for our children.
Absolutely. They deserve it. We deserve it. You know, Lila, I think that we are built for community. Like Gabor said, I think we are wired for connection and community. There's no doubt about it. There's no question. And so this work that I sit in, while I'm learning how to do this for myself, it is so that I can be healthy in my community, right? This is not for me to be like, I got love, go get yours. It's I got love and I'm willing to extend myself in it now. I know how to do it better than I did, 5 years ago. And 5 years in the future, I'll know how to do it even better than that, right? This is nothing to do with perfection, but it's if we all took a stand in kindness, that's it. If we all took a stand in that, how different would the world be, right? It takes every individual person to stand up to this idea of love, healthy relationships, kindness, care, like all of us doing it that way. And then the momentum builds that way. Like that's how we light up the world. But if we don't take our individual responsibilities in this, then our community does suffer, right? And we're built to be in community. We're built for this loving connection. And maybe not with the billions of people around the world, but with your community. We are built for it. Yeah, so I know he has a lot of wisdom to share. I look forward to that episode.
Yeah, I think, I think a lot of people, when you tell them just be kind to each other, um, they would look from a point of view of, oh, does the world need this? Like more kindness. I don't have time for this. What the hell are you talking about? But to be honest, this whole this whole opinion that we are separate from each other is a lie. Everything is connected with each other. Our body, our mind that's the first lie, that we think our body and our emotional psychic is separated from they are separate from each other. It's a lie, because we know for a long time that emotional stress can cause illnesses in our body. And the other lie is that we think what happens in the USA or what happens in Ukraine, what happens in Gaza, it doesn't affect us. But it's a lie. All the world is interconnected, and we see it also with the migrational, the so-called crisis, when people were leaving their countries and they all of a sudden came to Europe. It's not that they created the problem or they had something going on there and we were not part of this. We have been part of this for a long time. We have been taken a lot from these poor countries, and now they're like coming towards us. And so we really have to open our eyes and open our mind and have a greater point of view and see the interconnections. Yeah, I think it's so
Yeah.
important.
Very important. Very well said. Yeah, very important. I don't understand why kindness seems like a sense of duty. Like, oh, it's too hard to do that. Like, that part I'm really still trying to get with because I listen, I know there's a difference. Anyone can be not nice, but not everyone's kind. There's a difference, but I think we somehow need to start teaching each other what it looks like. It's actually not that hard to do to be kind to someone, right? And sometimes your kindness is just to mind your own business, right? It's just like, that's kind. Let me just mind my own business, or let me leave that alone, or give people space to have their own lived experience, right? I often say to my clients, we have to give the people in our lives the dignity and respect of having their own path without trying to get in the way and divert them when you don't know what their path is leading them to their healing, right? We're all going to get there at some point. But using kindness as a sense of duty when people say it's hard always makes me wonder, because I hear that too. And it always makes me wonder, why is it a sense of duty and not just something that we're like, yeah, I should probably lean into not being a jerk to others or treating
I
people
think
how
it
I would want to be treated.
I think when I meet people who say who have a hard time being kind to others, and a lot of people I have the feeling act from place of lack. Like, why should I be kind to you? I don't feel happy. My cup is not full. Like, the world doesn't provide for me, but it's the thing is that the world doesn't owe you. You have to provide for yourself. You have to fill your cup yourself.
Mhm.
And yeah, they feel like they don't have enough because they buy into the lie of social media. Everyone has to have a millionaire house and a Ferrari and so much money, and you can make so much money with putting on some videos or whatever. So we are surrounded by lies, and people buy into these lies. And if they obviously cannot fulfill these illusions, they run around with this feeling of lack and I didn't get enough. And so it's a hard time for them to be kind. That's my personal sharing my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I get it. I agree. I think there's so much brokenness in the world. Again, going back to at the very beginning of our discussion, self-awareness is key. When we learn, okay, why is it hard for me to be kind? What part of me feels broken or upset or any of those things? One of my other greatest teachers, he's also deceased. His name was Anthony DeMillo. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Have you heard of him? Yeah, he talks a lot about love and community and connection. And he's like, I put him and Gabor Mate and Esther Perel, like all of them in this package of like brilliant thinkers around awareness and connection. But you're right, it takes all of us taking a stand to just do better for ourselves. Let me do better. Let me take the responsibility. And I love a part of responsibility. The word responsibility seems heavy, but Werner Ehrenhart has a definition of responsibility that I really like. And at the end, it basically says like we're giving ourselves the grace to have a say in the matter of our lives, right? So I'm taking responsibility. I'm giving myself the grace to have a say in the matter of my life and how I will be with other people now. And if we all did that, I think the world then tilts back towards a sweeter place. Because we're all connected, like you said.
That are really beautiful and powerful words. And I would love to finish our conversation with this. We have shared so much, you have shared so much wisdom, and I hope we could inspire our audience to take away something from it. Charmaine, thank you so much for your time and your devotion to learning and growing. Thank you to our audience for your time. Please subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned. We have amazing conversations coming up with Dr. Gabor Mate and also Dr. Shefali. So, yeah, thank you so much and goodbye from the Brave Space.